These guys are the biggest cappers in the world, I promise. At this point in time, they literally pulled up, suited up, completely suited up. They're like, I'm good, but I'll put some flowers in your face and I'll throw up one of these, but you're probably gonna be gone in the morning. Like, yo, I wasn't gonna do it, but here we are. We got another video by Trust Me Brote. Why it sucked to be a plague doctor. Now, if y'all don't know what a plague doctor is, that's these guys with the apothecary masks. He'll show it in a second, but I love the way these guys are depicted in like Assassin's Creed. Me and my brother used to play Assassin's Creed. You remember the first online that I think they added in Brotherhood, and you could always play as the different characters. Sometimes I would low key pick the apothecary character or like the courtesan and just be chilling and you slap somebody up, man. It was legit. But hey, if you don't know what an apothecary is, you're missing out. So today you're about to be learning something good. So let's go ahead and like the video, subscribe, join up, do all that, and let's find out why it sucked to be a plague doctor.
You wake up to the sound of a horse-drawn buggy galloping down a cobblestone road. This is a familiar sound. Every morning the quarters come and collect all of the dead and take them to
We got
the burn
breakfast
pile.
for dinner.
Today's pile is particularly
Waffles,
large.
turkey,
You take a deep breath and reluctantly
sausage.
get out of bed.
Not sausage,
Today
eggs.
is like any other. You skip breakfast and get straight to work because there is no time to spare. You start by getting dressed. You open your closet and are met with your alter ego, the plague doctor, and for many, the last thing they see before death. You begin by putting on long undergarments tucked into each other, long johns tucked into socks, undershirt tucked into pants, anything to keep
Yeah, they
out
were like the worst
bad air.
doctors, so
Next,
they had
you
the
put on a
cap.
thick, ankle-length overcoat,
remember.
which has been sealed with animal fat and pleasantly scented wax to prevent any air from seeping in. Next, you put on your boots and gloves, making sure they maintain a tight seal. Following that, you put on your bird-like beak mask. Every morning, you empty the beak and refill it. This beak serves a very
the herbs
important
and
purpose.
spices.
It was believed that the spread of the plague was caused by bad air, particularly bad smells. Therefore, the thought was if you could maintain good smells near your nose, you would be protected. The beak had two nostrils at the very end of it and was filled with herbs and spices, particularly lavender. The freshly stuffed beak served as a perfect filtration system, or so they thought. The beak is tightly fastened to your face, making sure to prevent any ways for bad air to leak in.
People just did
Finally,
anything
you put
back
on your
then,
leather
bro.
hat and grab your cane, which will
That's
be
the most
very useful.
That's the most pseudoscience stuff ever, man. They're like, yo, I get it. I get the logic. Trust me. I get the train of thought. But like, bro, all right, check it out. The plague is caused by bad air. So why don't you take a bunch of good smelling stuff, put it in a beak mask, and filter it through there so you don't get the plague? It makes sense, right? Honestly, I'm not mad at the logic, but it's so goofy. It's so goofy. Like, what is this, bro? Why is he wearing a freaking bird beak, bro? I love old stuff, man.
Very shortly. Now that you're fully equipped, you grab your medical tool bag and you're out the door. You live in an area that's relatively untouched by the plague, at least comparatively speaking, but you work day in and day out in the most devastated parts. Plague doctors were hired by cities to help provide services to low-income citizens.
It
who
low-key
weren't
must
able
have
to
worked,
pay
though.
for proper
They
care.
didn't look
And
like he got
unfortunately,
sick.
that typically meant you were dealing with the worst cases possible. These slummish conditions of these poverty-stricken neighborhoods allowed disease to run
Maybe they were
wild
onto
and
something.
destroy almost everything in its path. You approach your first house call, checking up on a patient you visited the day before. Before you could even get to this person's door, you are met with a disgruntled and obviously sickly person, desperate for answers and help. This is where one of the use cases of this cane comes in. Tensions were reasonably high, and unfortunately for many people, proper care was simply not an option. People were desperate to get any time or attention they could from the plague doctors, even if that meant assaulting them. It sounds counterintuitive, but people were desperate.
Assaulting?
You are literally beating people off with a stick to maintain a
Yo,
distance between
that's like a
yourself
pimp
and
cane.
people who will likely be dead within the next few days. You enter the residence of your first house call and things are looking grim. Your patient
gotta
has
be tough.
buboes all over their neck, arms, and legs. These buboes are the inflammation of the lymph nodes,
Yo,
causing large
Trust me, bro. Why do you
blood
sound like
vessels
you
to
have the plague right now in this video? This is like 10 months ago, but maybe, I don't know. Were you sick or something? I don't know.
appear
Or you
all
just
over
really
the
like the
patient's
vocal
body.
fry?
These painful buboes also burst and leave open, oozing wounds.
Ugh,
You use your
no.
cane again for its second purpose, checking if your patient is even alive. You maintain your distance and nudge
That's
them a
crazy.
few times. In this case, your patient wakes up, but only barely. Almost all of the information available is anecdotal. And your tool bag is light and unequipped. For this specific patient, you recommend bloodletting. You open a jar of leeches and start placing the leeches on the buboes to help
So you
drain
get the
them.
blood
As
out.
these leeches are applied, you hand this patient
Yeah,
a
they just
bouquet of
cap.
flowers to allow them to smell good air. After a roughly 30-minute treatment, you let them know that you don't believe they'll be alive by morning. In this case, you do take a will and last testament from
They
them.
just be capping, bro. They just be walking around safe in their junk, in their suit. These guys are brutal, man. These guys are the biggest cappers in the world, I promise. At this point in time, they literally pulled up, suited up, completely suited up. They're like, I'm good, but I'll put some flowers in your face and I'll throw up one of these, but you're probably gonna be gone in the morning. Like, yo, bro, put some leeches on that junk, throw up one of these, put some flowers in their face, and then say a prayer for the boy. Like, what? That's how doctors were moving back then. That's so crazy. They say, hey, I got nothing for you, bro. I'm good, though. Oh, my
Something that
gosh.
you'll be able to provide to any of their living family. You pack up your
That's
things and you're
hilarious.
back onto the street. It's cold, gloomy.
You say,
and
all
the
right, I'm back
street is
out
only
here.
populated
They
with
just,
rats feeding
did they
on
get
dead
paid for
bodies.
this?
In the
If they got paid for this, then being a plague doctor was the biggest, like, grift in the world at this point in time. You just get paid to cap, bro. You just get paid to act like you can help somebody. That's it. You don't even have to know anything. You just pull up, do the same thing, and then watch them die and then collect the check. That's crazy. It was a crazy time, man.
smell of death. Although helping people is your only goal, typically even the sight of you was a bad omen. Many people only saw plague doctors
Yeah, if you
days
see
before death.
you see a
and
plague doctor,
therefore
bro, just assume
associated
you're
seeing
cooked.
you with dying in the near future. On your walks between house calls, you always ponder on what could be causing such a disease. You know this isn't the first plague, not by a long shot. From the plague of Justinian to the Black Death that eliminated almost a third of Europe, to now, with the resurgence of the plague in Venice, we still have very limited information about what is happening. At this point, the government has tried quarantining the sick and those who even appear to potentially be sick, putting them on a remote island and burning all of their earthly belongings to make sure that there is nothing left to spread the disease. It seems like every day the death count only rises and rises, and those who become infected by the disease live a horrible last few days. The disease starts with the appearance of these buboes, which is typically a mark of death. These buboes multiply in numbers
keep
and grow in
calling them.
size, sometimes getting as large as an apple. Hours or potentially even days later, you are met with an extreme fever and a throat-scratching
that's
cough.
tough.
Your body rejects all foods and liquids, and sometimes dehydration would kill you before the plague could. This disease
That's
can be
tough.
so fast-acting that someone can go to bed feeling relatively fine and not wake
And
up in the
not
morning.
wake up.
Before germ
That's
theory
crazy.
was ever a thing, miasma theory was the prominent scholarly belief. The theory was simple. It refers to the bad air I mentioned earlier. The miasma theory stated that diseases such as the plague were spread through bad air or night air or essentially noxious gas, meaning that it was the smell that carried the disease and nothing else, which is why the plague doctors kept good smells, perfumes, and spices and herbs in their mask, as the good smells would counteract the bad smells.
Did they unknowingly like use herbs for their like intended purpose while trying to do some stupid pseudoscience around smells? That's kind of dope. Because like the herbs did have like some kind of cleansing and filtration properties, I imagine. Like especially like depending on what they're using. They said they used lavender, so they probably did have some like detoxifying agents in there that probably would have like filtered the air a little bit. But that's funny. It says smells.
Unfortunately, wasn't extremely effective. It's also for this
it
reason why your
wasn't?
thick coat is covered in animal fats and scented wax. You arrive at your next house call, but this patient is no longer with you. But you knew that going into it. You're not treating this person. You're performing an autopsy. On top of treating people, witnessing and writing wills and testaments, plague doctors also performed autopsies when requested to collect information about cause of death and the disease
Okay,
itself.
so they were
In
working.
this case, you're documenting the body of this victim and checking their insides to see what exactly was affected by the plague. This
Yeah,
is
I
one of
don't
the
like
most
watching this
dangerous
while I'm
actions
eating. I
of
should have
plague
picked a different
doctors,
video.
as this presents them with the
At least
highest
it's not too
opportunity
graphic.
to get infected
just stick
bodily
figures.
fluids on their clothing and on their
Mm.
skin, which could
Yeah.
easily infect and kill the doctor. Those who became infected with the plague died within 3 to 8 days. And the
Dang.
death rate of the plague was 80%, meaning
Dang.
that this disease for most people was a death
Yeah, you're
sentence.
cooked.
The deadliness of this disease was actually part of its downfall, as although it was spread through unhygienic, tightly packed urban areas, due to the fact that it killed so quickly, it got to a point where it started running out of victims and started killing itself off as it was unable
so
to find
crazy.
and spread itself to other hosts. Near the
So
end of
good
the
at
plague,
killing
people
it killed
began to
itself.
understand that transmission occurred when people were in contact with each other. Therefore, quarantining and maintaining distance from others became much more popular. It wasn't known at the time, but the biggest spread of the disease was
The
through
rats.
infected fleas that lived on rats. Rats
I remember
that
that.
also populated these urban areas heavily. The
Mhm.
word quarantine actually comes from the word quarantino, which means 40 days in Italian. This is because when boats
Mm.
would dock at the ports of Italy, they would make these sailors stay on their boat for 40 days to ensure that they were not bringing any disease with them. It's interesting to retrospectively look back at
How they have the
practices
supplies
of
for
the
that?
time, but unfortunately, when you're in the middle of this
Maybe
situation,
they brought 'em
tensions
food, they
were
bought
high
it.
and information was limited. Some people believed that this plague was a punishment from God, and people took this belief into their own hands and began killing people that they thought to be sinful to help end the plague early by removing the
Crazy.
sinful from this world. The psyche of the
Crazy.
general population was at an all-time low. When you wake up
Yeah.
every day to bodies being carried in front of your house, being brought to burn piles, seeing people covered in awful lumps all
That'd
over
be
their
crazy.
body, and having a third of your family pass away overnight, you simply
That's
can't maintain
insane.
a normal mind. As a doctor and hired professional, you do your best, but even for you, it's not easy. You finish your day, getting home late, making yourself a meal and resting, as you have another busy day tomorrow, doing all the same things over and over again, hoping that the number of deaths doesn't increase too much, and hoping that you didn't get infected yourself. This same cycle continues over the
They be
next
taking a
years
risk.
and years until signs of hope start to glimmer.
But some was
So many
working.
people die
They didn't get
that it's
infected.
simply harder for the disease to spread.
Or at least not this
With
guy.
increased quarantine measures and increased awareness about hygiene in the mind of the population, it appears that the disease is starting to lift and potentially things are starting to look better. You may be out of the job, but you're completely happy about that because your job requires hell and you'd rather be retired in heaven than employed in hell. The government relieves you from your duties and you go back to your home in the countryside. Finally, reconnecting with your wife and children after years of no contact, because even sending a letter could potentially spread the disease as bad air
That's
could be
crazy.
trapped in the envelope. You arrive at
That's
the
crazy.
countryside to a wife who's breaking down at the sight of you.
That's so
and
cool.
kids who
Glad
barely
they're still
recognize
alive.
You. You all share a pleasant moment and then go
Uh-huh.
inside. Your wife prepares you a beautiful meal for your return, and your children
And then he
just
sees a
want to
buboes
know
on
who
him.
you are and where their dad has been. You have the best day that you've ever had in your life, and you feel that maybe this endless nightmare is over. You tuck your young children into bed for the first time in years, and before going to bed yourself, you go to the washroom. And by washroom, I mean you step outside to take a leak. You unzip your pants and urinate into the vegetable garden you didn't realize your wife planted there. You give
Crazy.
yourself a few shakes and realize something on your leg.
Oh,
It's a
no.
small lump on your
No.
groin. It's unfortunately something you're familiar with. And now
No.
the timer is ticking.
No. No, please. No. No, not the fam, bro. Yo, trust me, bro. No. No, man. That's tough, bro. Y'all think y'all would have survived the plague, honestly? Y'all think y'all would have lived it? You've been like walking around like, hey, don't touch me. Hey, back up. Back up, boy. Nah, but with that said, hey, I enjoyed this video. Thank you. Trust me, bro. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate this. If you enjoyed the reaction, go ahead and leave a thumbs up and all that. Go ahead and subscribe to subscribe to Trust Me, bro. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.